All right. Good morning, everybody. So, what we're going to do today is I had a property that listed a few months ago with had a total of 16 offers on it. I have it cut down to just 10 of the top 10 offers that came through. Um, Whenever you have a multiple offer situation, what we want to try to do is make sure that we're presenting all aspects of the offers that are coming in a way that it's palatable for the client, right? So in Pennsylvania, we have a SRP, which is a seller's reply to purchase offer. Um, Maryland, you guys are going to have different forms, but the negotiations and the strategies, no matter whether it's Maryland or Pennsylvania, are all going to be the same, right? So what we need to look at is whether you do it on an Excel spreadsheet, you type it up on a Word document, you use whatever PAR or MAR form is there for you that was created for you to be able to lay out all the offers on. It doesn't matter, but we need to make sure that we're encapsulating all really important details of the offers as they're coming in. So before I start kind of like putting the 10 offers up here and we start evaluating them, um, give me some ideas of what are very important things that we look for in the offer, right? So if we're starting on page one of the offer and we're going from page one through page 14, what are the things, the big red ticket things that we're looking for?
Number one is
Price.
price, right?
That
Contingencies.
contingencies, price. I mean, to me, price seems like the biggest thing we should be looking at on that agreement of sale, right? So are they giving us what we're offering? Are they going above? Are they going below? That type of thing. Michelle, I will agree with you. Contingencies are probably one of the other most important things that people are going to look at. Why somebody else give me why are contingencies so important? Why what kind of role do they play? Doug, I did see your comment. Financing or cash is very important. That is going to come into play with some of these as well when we start going through them. But somebody else, why are contingencies and such an important part of the process?
They have the potential to really complicate things.
Okay. Bethany, give me an example of how contingencies can complicate things. You're muted.
I can just. Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Technology's fun when it cooperates, right?
Okay, we muted. Oh, wait. Okay.
That's trippy. Krista's in two blocks right now.
Depending on the seller's goals, like depending on if the seller already found their place or what their goal is, moving out wise, if a buyer's contingent on they have to find a property or if they're contingent on different inspections, it could make it more complicated for what the sellers, depending on the seller and what their goal is.
Okay. Um, Somebody else. What types of financing? Because Doug did bring up financing. What types of financing are going to have automatic inspections attached to them?
FHA.
And
Any of the
which
government
inspections?
funded ones, FHA, VA, USDA.
Okay. So let's break that down. What are the required ones? First of all, let me ask this question. Are they required? So we'll start with FHA. What are the required inspections for FHA?
An approved property inspection. It's first of all, right?
Nope.
It's
With
FHA is
FHA,
what? Go
it's
ahead,
I don't
Krista.
think there's any for FHA except for if
Okay.
like we just found out, if the well and septic are within 100 feet, we have to have a clean water now.
So again, real estate, ever-changing world. 6 months ago, FHA required a WDI. Now, back in July, WDI fell off, wasn't required unless the appraiser called for it. And now we're in a whole new world of FHA doesn't require any inspections unless the well and septic are within 50 feet of each other, right? VA home loan. Anybody know what's required for a VA home loan? I'll do the awkward thing and just stare at the screen. It's fine. Krista, hit me.
Well, I know they're like the most strict, so I feel like they would want wood. Do they do the water or?
So VA a couple months ago would have required a WDI for everyone. And if it had well, it required well. If it had septic, it required septic. With the new changes that just came out, the only required ones would be well and septic. And then USDA, I know that there's set things in stone for USDA, but if has anybody ever worked with a USDA loan? Just
Yeah.
strap in. You're doing whatever the appraiser tells you you're going to do.
Yeah.
there is no fun to a USDA loan. It's great for your client because it does save a significant chunk of cash for them at settlement, but it's also going to probably have one of the highest stipulations in order to get it, right? So again, circling back to that, whenever we get offers in, usually everybody says cash is king. Why do people think cash is king?
You can settle faster.
Okay. Can you break that down for me a little bit more though?
Well, cash, you don't have to, they aren't getting a financing, they aren't getting a loan. So settlement can move typically a lot faster than when you do have a loan in that mortgage contingency.
Okay. So because we don't have loan processing, we don't have an appraisal process. Inherently, we don't have appraisal process. Sometimes people submit cash offers and still want to do an appraisal contingency. But we don't have a lot of the red tape cutting everything down, right? We have to get through title, make sure the title is going to transfer free and clear, and then we have a deal. So a lot of times when somebody's doing cash, I've had cash close in 7 days. So it can go very, very quickly. And then conventional financing. I'm of the mindset that conventional is almost as good as cash. I know some people consider it to be less than, but conventional financing doesn't have any type of stipulations or requirements outside of the appraisal. Okay. FHA and VA home loans. Why are people afraid of those type of loans when it comes to the appraisal?
In my experience, I feel like they nitpick at the littlest things that like conventional wouldn't even touch.
Okay. Why is that? What's the textbook answer as to why they nitpick? So HUD standards, right? They have to pass HUD standard, right? So an FHA loan, a lot of people don't like those because there's always going to be some sort of HUD safety standard that has to be met in order for that appraisal repair to go through. Thank God they removed peeling, chipping paint from FHA and VA because that was just getting to be a little ridiculous. But again, who here has anybody dealt with FHA or VA and then an appraisal repair came back and you had to put 3 hand railings in throughout the house because they were 2 steps or greater, stuff like that, right? That's not nitpicky as much as it is safety requirements because they're government backed loans. So the house has to meet certain safety standards, not just appraise at value, right? If someone submits with an FHA loan and then wants to convert to conventional, is that a good or a bad thing for your seller? Just trying to get everybody's brains moving this morning before we get into these offers. So if we start out, if we know that FHA and VA home loan are going to be a little bit harder because of the standards that they have to pass as part of the appraisal process, if we start out FHA and then the buyer has the ability to convert over to conventional, is that in everyone's best interest or not?
I would say yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Okay. What if the reverse happened? What if somebody started out conventional and then you get a call from that buyer's agent 3 days later saying, oh, we have to convert to FHA? Is that in everybody's best interest or not?
No.
Right. Because the FHA is just inherently even if the house is completely fine. Say we are talking about new build construction that's 10 years old, the roof and everything is fine, and we're not worried about the property. An FHA loan, even if the parameters were exactly the same, an FHA loan is going to put certain barriers and contingencies in play that a regular cash or conventional loan wouldn't have, right? So everybody understands when it comes to the efficiency of the process, cash is going to be our primary that we're going to be looking for. Conventional is going to be a very close second. I work a lot with the VA home loan, so I really don't see a lot that I'm afraid by with the VA home loan as long as the house is good. A lot of times, VA home loan comes down to the seller's property disclosure. If we have a lot of issues that are coming up in the seller's property disclosure, VA and FHA might just get automatically ruled out because those are going to be automatic repairs that are going to have to happen. And then FHA, to me, and this is just my personal opinion, I know a lot of people feel differently, but FHA and USDA, it's just Jesus take the wheel. Yes, there are certain standards that we know we can look up. We can look up the HUD standards and be able to apply those to the house and the property disclosure and make our best guesses to be able to brief everybody. But at the end of the day, what are we looking at? We're looking at the most efficient process for our client, right? So as a listing agent, what we are looking at is give me overall goals as a listing agent. And I'm going to say the obvious one, to make our client the most amount of money, right? Okay. What are other goals that we have as the listing agent going into that process? What are other factors that we're considering there?
Terms. We want
Give
well,
a little more.
So there's so many to talk about with terms. I was seeing if anyone else wanted to. We want it as clean as possible. So how many inspections? How many hurdles? Are they putting a lot of money down? Are they doing a 3%? Are they doing a 20%? Do they have wiggle room to play with?
Right. So there's a lot of different factors there, like Tony just said. It's kind of like a multiverse, an infinite number of possibilities of different things that could come back when it comes to terms, right? So Kim posted something last night in the mentorship group chat that was a perfect example of that. There is no way to take the bite out of a contingency. It's a contingency. It's my way to walk away without a problem, right? So the only way to really take a bite out of the contingency is to remove the contingency. But then that doesn't do the buyers their best interest as well. So the commonality that we have to look at is as these offers are coming in, we're going to have to look at the additional terms as well. It's not just a black and white, okay, well, the house is selling for X amount of dollars and everybody's willing to pay that. We also have to look at the terms that are going into it as well. For instance, if a property is selling for $300,000 and somebody offers us $290,000, no contingencies, conventional financing, and then someone else offers FHA financing at list price of $300,000, but they also are getting home inspection, WDI, radon, they're getting a whole list of other things. Every single contingency that's added there protects the buyer. And even if I'm not worried about the property as a listing agent, I have to take that into consideration when I'm briefing my clients, because now these are all different ways. Every time contingency pops up, what does contingency translate to? Buyer gets to walk away and keep the deposit. That's what everybody hears with contingencies. So as these offers keep coming in, the additional terms are very important to this process. So, all right. I'm going to share screen.
One term that can work in your favor is the appraisal gap waiver. that's a nice way to say, we don't believe that you have this comped properly and we're only willing to pay X amount over asking. Or I mean, not over asking, over appraisal.
Which is another excellent point. So what Tony just brought up is an excellent point with that appraisal gap contingency. You're saying, I just toured a house yesterday. They included all the square foot of the basement.
Yeah.
When they did their comp. That's not going to comp that high. That house is easily 40 grand overpriced. So when we submitted our offer, we submitted it with an appraisal contingency. We'll pay you that. We'll pay you list price if it appraises that high, but if it doesn't, we're only paying your appraisal value. Why?
Well, wouldn't appraisal gap waiver just sound friendlier than a appraisal contingency?
I mean, terminology is fine, but for me, it's still a contingency.
I mean, I'm
If it
willing to
doesn't-
pay $1,000 over appraisal so I can use this document instead of this negative one.
That's true. Again, going back to different strategies. That's also another factor why FHA and VA home loans are often frowned upon, because they have a built-in appraisal contingency addendum. So FHA or VA home loan, they're only getting the money if the house appraises that high. Cash and conventional, we have the option to be able to split the difference. Does somebody with FHA have the option to bridge the gap and bring cash to funds? 100%. But how many people do you know that have used FHA home loans have another 20 grand just lying around? Right? If they had $20,000, $30,000 sitting in the bank, they're probably not using FHA financing in the first place, right? So just different things to consider. And just remember, most loan officers that are out there right now from all the different various companies that I've worked with, first-time home buyer, as long as your credit is intact, first-time home buyer can pull conventional with only 3% down. So we're talking less down than an actual FHA at 3.5%, right? So if you have somebody that's riding the line on different financing types, have them talk to the lender and figure out a way to secure the best type of loan to be able to move forward with. But I am not going to continue down the whole pathway of terms because, as Tony and I just demonstrated, we could probably go on for that for like 3 straight days of all the different nonsense that we've seen and the different ways to make stuff palatable. At the end of the day, though, when we submit offers, once the offer deadline hits, it's over. Would very highly recommend that you submit offers in a highest and best fashion. A lot of people like using escalation clauses, things of that nature. Those are all other terms that we're going to get into as we start going through these things. But if you run into anything that you're unfamiliar with, just reach out. Somebody in the group will be able to give you advice and guidance on it. Just like you saw last night, Kim dropped a question in there, and there was probably like 30 something messages of different advice to be able to use on that. So
Plus, I had two people call me too, which was really nice. So I appreciate all the help.
Somebody will be here to help. Just throw your hand up. Sorry, I'm just reading the chats just to make sure we didn't move anything. All right. Doug is all about this cash transactions. I love that. So, all right, I'm going to share screen. All right. All right. Can everybody see this? Yes? No? Maybe. Okay, cool. So, first offer that came in, I'm going to just have these listed as 1 through 10, just because of putting people's information out there. Obviously, we're not going to do that, and I'm not going to go through and redact all 10 of these offers in every single line where there's identifying information. So what I did is, in Pennsylvania, we have the seller's reply to purchase offer. Well, I did an SRP for every single offer that came in. You can do an email, whatever you want to do. But I always like to do this form because this form lets me actually break down every aspect of it, right? So offer number 1, our list price was $140,000. So I'm just going to say that on this property. It was $140,000 property in Enola. It was a duplex. The one positive aspect of this listing was that when I put this listing up, there was literally nothing in Enola that matched it inventory wise. So we had the only house in Enola, which is why some of these offers start to get a little crazy. That being said, though, we're going to go through these first 10 offers and just kind of compare them side by side. So if anybody wants to take notes, please feel free to do so. But offer number one came in. Our purchase price or our list price was $140,000. Buyer broker fee sitting at 2.5%. 0% closing cost assistance. Settlement date I just threw in, I just left on there. I didn't black that out. But they are also coming in at conventional financing. Okay. And they have elected home inspection, waived all others. They have an appraisal contingency addendum on there. And they have a price escalation addendum. So they included a appraisal contingency like Tony was just talking about, but then they also agreed to escalate the price in increments of $5,000 up to $165,000, right? So somebody who is a mentee, is this offer $140,000 or $165 or is it somewhere in between?
$140 until the next offer comes in.
Excellent. So this offer doesn't escalate to this $165,000 price until we have another offer that gets it there, right? So while this $165,000 number looks great, it doesn't become $165 until we have another offer that comes in at least $160,000, right? So if we receive no other offers, this is only a $140,000 offer. So it's a list price offer coming in with a home inspection, right? And they are only requesting 2.5% BAC, right? With zero seller's assist. All in all, this is not a bad offer. I think this is a pretty solid offer, right? They're saying, okay, we're willing to go above list price if somebody else is, but if somebody else isn't, we're not going to put ourselves out there. I like it. Is everybody done taking notes on this one? Anybody need more time? All right. Fade away in 3, 2, 1. She gone. All right. Offer number 2. They are coming in at $161,000. They are coming in $21,000 over list price. They are also requesting 3% BAC, so slightly higher than the other one, but 2.5% to 3%, not really that big of a difference on $160,000. 0% closing cost assistance. And then they are coming in with home, WDI, and property and flood insurance. They waived the rest. They waived all the other ones, but they took the big ones that are going to be, as we discussed earlier, possible headache issues, right? Possible contingency issues. So again, they came in and they want all the inspections, but instead of giving us an escalation clause, they went highest and best, and they submitted an offer at $161,000. The reason they did $161,000 is because they were pre-approved for $160,000 and they had $1,000 in the bank. So they made sure to include that on their financials when they sent that over with the pre-approval. So they literally are throwing every penny they have at it, which if we look at these first 2 offers, the first offer was kind of just, they were kind of just, we're willing to commit if somebody else is. This person is all in. They're throwing everything they have at it, right? So again, we're sitting at $161,000 with, I know they waived all the other inspections, but they have the big inspections attached: home, wood destroying insect, property flood insurance. All right.
Question.
Yes.
How confident are you at the $140,000 mark? Like, will that appraise?
Yes. So I guess, Tony, that's a great point. I should have brought that up. The way that I do pricing for my properties is I do my CMA and then I price 3% under. So that 140,000 is 3% under what I thought the house was actually going to list for or sell for. So, and that is a Chris Deerdorf thing that was taught to me very early on in my career. do your CMA, price 3% under, usually gets a bidding war going. In this case, I hate to prove them right, but I had 16 offers come in on this property. So, all right. Option number 3 coming in. Remember, we listed at 140. They're coming in at $146,800, 3%. And they are electing home and WDI, but they're waiving the rest of the other inspections. Pretty straightforward offer. Again, when we see numbers like this, 146.8, we don't just see 150 or 140 or something random or something rounded down. That's a pretty good indicator that this person's probably throwing everything they have at it. Anybody else need to see any more on this taking notes? And if this is getting monotonous, I want you to just remember I had to do this 16 times over and then present them all to the sellers. So Krista doesn't look thrilled to be here. So that's the only reason I brought that up. So next offer coming in at list price, 140,000, requesting 3%. They are coming in conventional, so it does remove that possible appraisal issue that we were thinking of, that we might have with FHA and VA. But now back to Tony's point, they made it real interesting with a bunch of terms. They elected the inspections. They came in with a price escalation addendum up to $170,000. And they also included, now, even though they're coming in conventional, they also included the RRT form, which is the third-party agreement form for repairs from a lender. They're not only are they willing to escalate to $170,000, but they are also willing to cover $2,500 of any appraisal costs or anything that comes out of that with the bank for inspection, so the appraisal inspection. So it's a way of them being able to say, we want to get the house checked out. However, we're not going to nitpick. I think Krista was the one that said that, nitpick. They're not going to try to just get a bunch of little things to derail the deal. They're willing to fix little problems should they arise. So it's a good peace of mind value. But again, going back to what we were talking about before, like you said, Michelle, this offer is only $170,000 if we get an offer that comes in at $169,000, right? So from the offers that we went through so far, we've only had one offer that was at $161,000. So this offer at its best so far is only $162,000, not $170,000. Does that make sense? Okay. Anybody need to take any notes on this one? All right. Offer number 5. Again, coming in at list price, $140,000, 3% broker fee or BAC. They are coming in conventional with home inspection, WDI, and they are willing to escalate up to $150,000. The other thing here is the appraisal contingency addendum. They submitted that appraisal contingency, so they're willing to go up to 150. But if the house only appraises at 142, guess what? We're back to the drawing board, right? So this is a predetermined negotiation that we're going to have. To Tony's point, there are a lot of agents out there that don't know how to properly price a property. I'm sure everybody in the group has found some house that they were looking at where you're going, what are we doing? Why are we pricing this house that high? If, like Tony said, if you don't believe that the house is priced properly, you could throw that appraisal contingency in there to say that, we're willing to go with it as long as it actually hits that marker. All right. Next offer on the board is going to be coming in at $155,250. They're only requesting 1.5% BAC, which means that the buyer is probably looking to pay part of that commission themselves in order to keep it more competitive, right? They are coming in with a conventional mortgage, and they elected their home inspection, waived all others, and there are no additional terms. So while they are at that 155 range, they're only requesting half the BAC that everyone else has been accepting. So that's going to reflect itself on the seller's estimated net sheet when we're presenting this offer, right?
Someone needs to scold that realtor. Just no, they might be getting paid by the buyer. I take it back.
If I had to wager a guess, considering it's 155, 250, like that seems like they're probably throwing everything they have at it. And this person is working for 1.5% total, if I had to put a guess on that one. So I hate to spoil it for anybody, but this one didn't win because I never saw the final Alta, so I don't know what that agent was actually getting paid. So yeah, just throw it out there. All right. Anybody need any more time with this one to take notes? All right. Number 7, $147,000. So they're coming in 7,000 over. They're also they're only asking for 1.5% BAC. Another really big component here is cash, right? So we're not having to worry about appraisal contingencies or anything else. They waived all inspections. They have $147,000 in cash that they want to buy this house with, make it quick, simple, and easy, right? They also included a post occupancy. I'm not even sure why that was even included. I'll be very honest with you. But does anyone know what post occupancy is?
So I have this right now because I have a dry settlement. So it's whenever they can stay in the property after closing. And normally you do pay like rent per day for that.
I think the layman's terms that I hear the most for this are rent back or lease back. So I don't know why they included this with this offer. I think that they really didn't have anything else to bring to the table. So they kind of were just trying to, as Kim said last night, sweeten the pot as much as they could. My people never wanted any type of lease back option. So that to me is an example of, like Kim last night, went back and forth with this listing agent trying to figure out the best way to sweeten the pot. Don't just randomly throw spaghetti against the wall hoping it sticks. Have verbal conversations and get those verbal negotiations knocked down before you start putting stuff on paper. Because while it doesn't impact anything at all, it was kind of like, even when I presented this to my clients, they were like, why do we need that? Like, it just kind of threw off the whole vibe and kind of, in my opinion, kind of took a little bit of integrity away from the actual offer itself.
So they didn't even like call you asking if your sellers wanted that.
No. And that was one thing I was going to get to at the end, but I'll bring it up now, Bethany. Out of all 16 offers that were submitted, only 5 called me to ask me any questions before submitting an offer. So that is a huge breakdown in your fiduciary responsibility as a buyer's agent. If you're not communicating verbally with the listing agent, trying to figure things out and ask questions to be able to put together the best offer, you're doing a huge disservice to your client. But yeah, that was what another really shocking aspect of this whole thing is that I only heard from a handful of people and had that many offers submitted.
I just don't understand that at all. Like how are they operating? How are they? It's still in business. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like let this be a lesson to you, the mentees that are on the call. A lot of times, agents just accept. They just they don't want to fight anything. They just accept it. So, for instance, in the case of this offer right here, right, 2.5% BAC. My agency agreement with one of my current clients says that I'm at 3%. So if they want to submit an offer and that seller is only paying 2.5%, I tell my client that they are responsible for that other half a percentage point. A lot of agents will just say, screw it, and just accept the 2.5% that's being paid. They don't actually hold their client to whatever they contracted in their BAC. So when we're doing this, there are a lot of different strategies and techniques. Unfortunately, one of the biggest strategies and techniques that we see with agents is that they just don't fight. There's no conversation. There is no negotiation. Everybody just kind of accepts what's happening and they just kind of roll with it. Which is
maybe role play this topic because it's not easy.
It's really not. But every time I host a role playing session, nobody shows up. I think people are scared to role play with me. So, but that is something that now that everybody's getting back from summer vacations and traveling, and kids are going back to school, and people actually have 5 minutes here and there to be able to breathe, our pop up workshops are going to be starting again here in September, moving forward. So this is definitely going to be one where role playing, these conversations are definitely going to come back into that. So offer number 8 coming in at $160,000. So they're coming in $20,000 over list price, requesting 2.5% BAC. They also elected the big, which this one was crazy to me, lead-based paint. Has anybody ever had that happen? I've had it happen once, and it was very, very pricey. So has anybody had that happen? Let me ask that question. I'm sorry. Okay. So does anybody know how a lead-based paint test is performed? So essentially, the technician comes in. They're going to pay anywhere from $600 to $800 just for the technician services. On top of that, you're going to have to get 3 samples from every surface that you want tested. Each sample is going to cost you about $50. So if you want to test a wall in a room, that's $150 on top of we'll split the difference and say $700. So we're at $150 just plus the $700 just to test one wall. Now, if you want to test the wall, the floor, and the ceiling, we're talking about $450 per room that you're going to do that in on top of the actual technician fees. So the lead-based paint testing gets very pricey. But again, this person wanted it. It's their offer, so they have it in there, right? I'm not really worried about lead-based paint, but the issue with this specific offer that was communicated by this agent was that it was going to take them longer than 10 days to get a technician out there. So now they wanted to extend the contingency period to 18 days. So now we are almost 3 weeks into this process and the buyer still has the ability to walk away with that contingency, right? So while this is a great offer that came in at 20,000 over, we still have to worry about these conditions here, right? Number 9. Coming in $10,000 over our list price, 2.5% agency commission. They're coming in conventional with a PHFA K-Fit loan. Does anybody know what that is? Need a mentee to give me what they think PHFA K-Fit is.
If I'm understanding correctly, you can get 5% closing assistance.
Yeah, for the PHFA portion?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody know what the K-Fit portion is?
Are you wanting a mentee to answer?
No, anybody can answer. Yep, good.
Okay, I don't know for sure, but I think it's something it's very similar to Traditions Bank does that first front door. So it's like a little grant like thing. I don't know the exact amount, but someone I'm working with is dealing with that right now. Like where they get like $10,000 towards the closing costs and down payments and that kind of stuff. And they have to like stay in that house for 10 years, I believe it is.
That's what I was looking for. Yep.
So K-Fit actually means Keystone Forgivable in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be paid back if you move, correct? Like it turns
Yes.
into okay.
Yep. You get penalized if you move prior to that 10-year period of time.
Well, it's not penalized necessarily.
What word would you use?
So 10% is reduced. So it is 5% of the purchase price. You're able to not have any interest occur on that, and you do not pay towards it. And each year it gets deducted by 10%. So yes, if you do sell your property before that 10 years is up, then your proceeds are going to have to cover what is still existing. I think it's a great program, so I don't ever want to say you get penalized, but if you do live in the house for 10 years, that money is gone. So it is a second lien. So just keep that in mind.
Which means you're going to have a second underwriter that's going to be looking at the entire process as well. But if that person does move out of the house before 10 years, they are going to have to pay back proceeds, like April said. You can use whatever word you want to describe that. All right. So with the offers 1 through 9, let's talk about those so far. Spoiler alert, offer number 10 is the one that won. But I want to talk about offers 1 through 9 and kind of map those out. What do you guys think is the strongest offer?
6 so far.
Okay. So that was the one that came in at $155,250, 1.5% BAC on a conventional loan, correct? All right. Anybody else have something different than 6? Nope. Everybody thought 6 was the best?
I think I meant number 7. Sorry. I meant the cash one that had the post-settlement possession that wasn't needed. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else?
I missed a couple, but I liked 1.
Yep. 1, I liked 1 too. I think 1 was a good, strong forerunner in the beginning just because of the escalation. Because with the other offers that we have, that would have escalated to the 165. So it is a conventional pathway, and all it had was a home inspection. So not too much of a bite there. And again, I wasn't worried about the property. The property was purchased under FHA 3 years prior and had no material defects found through that appraisal inspection. So that was kind of one of those peace of mind factors there. But now I want to hit you guys with offer number 10 that literally came in 20 minutes before the offer deadline. $175,000 cash, waived all inspections, 2% buyer agency commission. That's it.
Well, duh. I mean, he even had 2% on the purchase price and cash all inspection.
Yeah, I'm sitting there doing the multiple offer spreadsheet, putting all these things out. Like I said, there are 6 other offers that I didn't include because they were all $20,000 under list price. So you still have to map all of these out. You still have to present all of these to your sellers. You can't just say, okay, this is the one I think the best, take this one. We still have to go through and brief all of these. So we still have to be able to map all of them out, right? So with that being said, what makes offer number 10 the dead ringer? Not just April laughing at it, but what made offer number 10 the dead ringer?
It was higher than all the other ones, and it's cash, and you don't have any contingencies.
And they didn't include an appraisal contingency or anything, right? So it was just a clean cut, clear offer. If that exact same offer was only $160,000, would it still be the forerunner? Why is that? Bethany, take a stab. What do you think?
Again, there's no contingencies, and like you said, there's no appraisal contingency as well. So all the others, I think most of them had an appraisal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The two other offers that were cash the other offer that was cash had an appraisal contingency that they submitted with it as well, right? So these people just came in and just said, screw it, we're throwing everything we have against the wall at it, and we're waiving all the contingencies. As a buyer's agent, how do you feel about your client submitting an offer like that? $35,000 over list price with no contingencies. Let's talk about that side of it. For me as a listing agent, it was great. That worked out very well. But as a buyer's agent, how do you feel about putting an offer up like that?
Fine.
You feel fine?
I mean, I have people I'm literally doing the same thing with, and this is our 38th house that I've looked at. They've put in, this will be
Yeah.
the fourth offer. They are very well qualified. They are buying below their means. They're throwing everything they can at it. I feel like they're protected and safe because we're doing an appraisal gap waiver, so they're not going to overpay by more than 10,000.
Well, these people weren't. This
Well,
offer,
that's different too. But if they're
Yeah.
qualified and this is the house, I don't know. I could be wrong.
no, I'm just asking everybody's opinion. This is the part of the conversation that usually splits people. So I like to hear this part.
I have mixed feelings. I think it depends upon the client, of course. So I'm dealing with a lot of, I want to call them kids, like they're brand new, 22, 24, 26, and they couldn't do this, first of all. They couldn't do a cash offer. So I always recommend inspections just because it's just nerve-wracking to me, and especially with young people who don't know what they're getting themselves into. So um yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they're adults and have that kind of cash laying around, go for it. Bring it.
Yeah, I
I'm
think for
under
me,
a
it kind of
really stupid question.
go for it.
Could you do an escalation clause on a cash offer?
You could. Mhm. The other aspect for me, again, this is coming from the buyer's agent side of things. I have two sets of buyers right now. One buyer I'm pretty sure would need to hire a handyman to change a light bulb, right? And then I have another set of buyers who he owns his own construction company. So if things popped up with the home inspection, I would feel that buyer number two, they would be in a position where they could write an offer like this and not have to worry about it because they could fix anything that was wrong with the house on the surface level, right? The first set of clients, I would feel very apprehensive about letting them just submit an offer like that with at least talking to them about the importance of a home inspection and what that does for them, just because again, the buyer's profile is going to impact how I'm going to brief each individual person, right? This isn't one size fits all. Each client's going to have a different thing that they're going to need to consider. So at the end of the day, this took a lot of time, right? All the SRPs got completed and they were all signed and sent out. The MOS sheet, which is the PAR form. Maryland, you do have a multiple offer sheet. I just don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But I would highly advise to you in any type of situation like this where you have multiple offers, whether it's 3 or 16, that you put them all side by side and present them all at the same time. I know somebody the other day told me that they set an offer deadline, but they just present the offers as they're coming in. I mean, that's a way to do it, but I like putting them all side by side, doing an estimated net sheet for each of them, which if you don't know how to do one of those, contact April. She'll show you the right way to do those. Or you just print them off of Bright. I know that makes April happy to hear too. But whatever you're doing, all jokes aside, making sure that you're mapping out all of these side by side so that everybody can see, or so that your clients can see all of these offers and what they entail. Who here feels comfortable with the agreement of sale that you could just look at 16 agreements of sale side by side and be able to pick it all out without having to write it all down. I don't. I would need some sort of tracker to lay out all the different aspects of these different things. So I would highly recommend that you, again, if it's just an Excel spreadsheet, map out the entire offer, put them all side by side so that you're actually comparing them side by side, right? Make sense? All right. Did everybody like this? Is that beneficial?
Yes.
Okay.
Very.
Okay. We are going to try to do a little bit more follow-up training with this one moving forward. I will go through and redact them, but that's going to be more of I will send out offers in their full form with obviously PII redacted from it. But I want to make sure that you guys are actually seeing what these offers look like and then kind of give you guys some homework to start role-playing and putting these things together. And then we can have mentors be the client that you're briefing about all of the multiple offers that came through. So, sound good? Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Does anybody have any other questions? Anything for the good of the cause? All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Hey, can you
Thank
hold on
you.
for a minute?
Yeah, what's up?
So we just had one question. So I took some information to an insurance agency the other day,
Michelle,
and
hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Krista, can you stop the recording?